Should you get the iPhone 8 Plus here in 2025? So the iPhone 8 Plus came out back in 2017, which was almost 8 years ago. And in this video, I'll be explaining to you whether or not you should get this device nearly 8 years later. So first off, we'll be covering the design, and then we'll talk about the specs and whether or not it's still worth buying. So with the design of the iPhone 8 Plus, it actually has a really nice design in my opinion. So on the back, we have back glass, and on the front, we still have the home button. And one feature that I like is that this device is actually really thin compared to modern smartphones. It's a lot thinner than what we have now. And if you look at the bottom, unfortunately we don't have the headphone jack, so if you want to use wired headphones, you'll have to do it through the lightning port. And there are several color options for the iPhone 8. There's the black, white, gold, and red. So that's 5 colors in total. And let's now talk about the specs of the iPhone 8 Plus. So starting off with the battery, the iPhone 8 Plus actually has a really good battery life. So it has almost 3,000 mAh, it has 2,700. And for comparison, modern iPhones like the iPhone 16 Pro have about 3,500. So the iPhone 8 Plus battery life still holds up really well. And that's all there is for the battery. Let's now move on to the camera. So the camera on the iPhone 8 Plus isn't all that good, but on the back we actually have 2 cameras here. So we have one for 1x zoom and the other for 2x zoom. So the camera quality is 7 megapixels for the front camera and 12 megapixels for the back. And the video records at 4K 60 for the rear camera and 1080p at 30 frames per second for the front camera. So overall, the rear camera is pretty decent, but the front camera is not that good. So let's now talk about the speeds of the iPhone 8 Plus. So this device does actually have 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is actually really good considering that the latest iPhone 16 Pro has 8 gigabytes. And as for the processor, the iPhone 8 Plus has the Apple A11 chip, which isn't that good. And for comparison, the iPhone 16 Pro has the Apple A18 Pro chip. So the iPhone 8 Plus does lag a bit behind on the processor, but it does still have a decent amount of RAM. Now as for the display, this device has a 1920 by 1080 pixel display, which allows you to watch full HD videos. And on top of that, it has a 5.5 inch screen if we measure it diagonally. So the display is pretty good. And it does also have 3D touch, which was removed from the iPhone many years back. And the brightness goes up to 625 nits. So that's all there is for the display of this iPhone. Let's now talk about the storage. So the iPhone 8 Plus has between 64 and 256 gigabytes of storage. So it all depends on which model that you get. So mine right now has 64, but if you spend more, you could also get 128 or 256. Now the last thing that we need to cover for this iPhone is the software support. So this device no longer gets the latest updates. So right now, as you can see, it gets only iOS 16. But there are still bug fixes, so Apple does still occasionally release updates to fix bugs on older iPhones like the iPhone 8. And that's really all there's to cover for the specs of this iPhone. Let's now talk about whether or not the iPhone 8 Plus is still worth buying here in 2025. So for most of you, I would say don't go for it because it's really old now. Unless you really want to have like a larger battery on your phone, then I could recommend this. But some of my favorite alternatives would be the iPhone SE3 and the iPhone SE2. And both of these devices are a lot faster. They do still get the latest iOS updates, but the battery life on them aren't as good as the one on the iPhone 8 Plus. And there's also the iPhone 12 mini, which is going to cost you about $200. And this is probably the cheapest, most modern looking phone that you could get. And I do have iPhone reviews for all these other devices down in the description. So if you're interested in them, make sure to check them out. And that's really all there is for this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out my channel to see more videos like this in the future. And if you have any video suggestions, make sure to leave them in the comments below.